Today we're going to pull the engine and transmission on this Volvo 245 station wagon, turbocharged with an M45, I think the 46, M46 electronic overdrive.
Wait.
This car has been sitting for over half a decade. Everything's pretty dirty, and it's going to get pulled out and swapped. So our job is going to be very simple in terms of removing stuff. A lot of it's obvious. There's going to be clips around the K-jet system here. The shroud and the fan will have to be removed, then the radiator, then we're going to start taking out all the accessory ports. We're pulling out all of the electronics too, since we don't need any of that for the swap. And we can leave the manifold on, just basically the motor mounts, and then the drive shaft on the rear, the shift linkage, the clutch cable. Those are the major points. I'll be sure to highlight them along the way. Of course the nuts are going to strip on that fan, so we'll have to get this out of the way first. Couple of clips, lift this whole thing up, disconnect the turbo side of it, and then these lines have little Allen keys on them there. And focus, there you go. Pull the 4 of those, lines pop out, all the rat poop goes in the block, and then you've got 4 more that go to, I think, a cold start injector and a inlet outlet for the fuel pressure stuffs. So almost there. Down there's 2 more lines. Those are going to go right there with the fuel lines attached to that K-jet distributor. Ah, look how better that is. How much better that is. There we go. I noticed that the adjustment screw doesn't really change much on the old Volvos from the newer Volvos.
This looks like a sea-dwelling creature off of another planet.
No, it's the flying spaghetti monster. There's proof. Made by us. Alright, at this point we've got radiator fan and shroud, radiator, K-jet units out of the way, and this is what we've got. Lots of space.
Big mess.
To work with. Mostly, most of the work's done. We still have the oil cooler in place. We might leave that in to pull the engine. It's got those 2 lines. If they interfere with this radiator support coming up, we might have to remove them, because actually we probably will. I remember having to do this years ago. So yeah, we can leave the lines there. You're going to want to drain the oil from the drain plug, and those lines go up to the filter housing behind the alternator. And you can leave the accessories and the belts on. We also need to disconnect the power steering lines on the backside of the pump. Car is up. We got the 4 drive shaft bolts. There are 13 and an 11. Yeah. There is the speedometer pulled out, and then I ran. And we basically chalk the back wheels, get 2 of the bolts undone, then lift the rear axle, rotate the wheel to expose the other 2 bolts, so they're on the bottom of the drive shaft. Disconnect those guys. Drive shaft's done. Next thing I had to do is the shifter, which I think is also underneath the car, but I'm going to wait for the gear oil to finish draining. And then we've got motor mounts in the front, miscellaneous wiring and hoses and things like that. The downpipe is 3 bolts, if you can see over there, 3 bolts on it. The bottom one's kind of tricky, especially if it's a rusty old metal car. This one's not, which is why it's sold. Alright, here inside the car, you're going to have 4 attachments on the shift boot. Those 2 are already torn, but they go up here. You'll have to kind of fold back the top piece. And then move the carpet back. On the bottom ones, there's these large washers that were attached in there. You can see, if I can get this to focus. And 10mm bolts, so you fold that up. Once you're looking in here, you're going to have the reverse lockout ring, or it's actually the limiter, so you adjust that to adjust the throw for reverse. And then you're going to remove the 2 8mm nuts, see it right there, and one on the top end there. And then the next thing, there's a snap ring right there. You see the snap ring? It's getting very, very small holes. So, thank you. I'm going to get these snap ring pliers and try it out. before we do the top snap ring on the shifter, you can see back here under the car, cross member's been dropped, transmission's dangling right there. Oh, can you see it? Right there. Bottom of the shifter, there's an Allen key. When you remove that, it's going to move those pins on the side. Let's see, this pin will then push out either end, probably that way, towards the driver's side. Not a lot of space between there and the overdrive unit, so we're going to get creative. And we'll see what we can do. Alright, that's where the springs are going to sit. Yeah. Hit it. Every time I say that, I want the song from episode 6 start playing. You know, the one in Jabba's palace. This is the fun part. Lots of that, and lots of groaning is about to happen.
Lots of hopping.
These cars can handle it. Yeah, it's all loose in there. It's just a matter of clearance now. Have fun. No? Looks like the pipe's coming with it, because there's a bracket that you can't get to any other way. So you can disconnect this guy here. Don't mind those, they're not really important. But there's that bracket on the back of the bell housing. Yeah, you're breaking the plastic bits up here. The little valves and all that.
Oh, okay.
There. Don't worry about them. They're just old they're just old Volvo things.
Got more oil.
A little bit of oil coming out of those lines because that's what they do. They hold oil. Just to keep in mind, things will leak. You can do this under the car, but I decided to do it out here. You're going to twist this guy counterclockwise, and it will loosen tension on the clutch cable. Yeah, it's easier under the car. I should have done it then. Now that it's all loose, you move circuit clip over there by pushing everything back. This is, I'm gonna need 2 hands, but essentially you push this all back, pop the clip out and the rubber piece, and then it's gonna come through this big hole there. Make sense? Good. That's not very helpful, but I trust you guys are smart enough if you made it this far. Yeah, heater hoses, that's one more thing back here. I like to do it once the engine's up because it gives you the space.
And use a sawzall.
There's the pry bar resting on top of the transmission. It's a good thing we have a drain pan under here because we're losing a lot of coolant. Alright. Plenty of room for an 8-cylinder hunk of junk. Congratulations. Time for a beer. A B230 is humping an OM617, and they made a B20.